The goal of today was to just kind of share my journey around fractional services. I wish I would have had this. But essentially I asked some questions on the form, and it ranged from how do I get started to how do I do lead gen were the primary ones. So let's just go through this. It's only like 8 slides, so don't be scared. So the thing is that there's myths. You know, you need to post on LinkedIn every day. You need to comment. I saw somebody say, do I really have to comment 15 minutes every day? Need to prospect all the time, buy lots of tools. Everybody has the answers. This concept, and I think it's more of a mindset about being dependent on an employer. And then you have to deal with the life-changing events of a layoff. And, you know, my facts are that I've been doing this since almost a year now, but I have long-term clients with real relationships. I have the flexibility to stay tuned in, and I'm really trying to upskill. This last year was such a huge learning. And then you can move on if it's not a good relationship. I work with startups, early stage founders, and I love them, but anyway. So this way I can have many of them at once. And yesterday, one of my clients, she says, LOL, I love you. Can we talk for 5 minutes? That's fun. It's a good thing. So as an introduction, I'm Connie, and this is Bill. And my whole journey since 2006, I had a 10-year traditional job as a public librarian. I had 4 library branches in northern Minnesota, nonprofit. We had to do our own fundraising, but I was answering questions in forums about a software for digital photography, like organizing the photos. And that company found me. And so that was the inbound. And they said, hey, you want to come and work with us? So all of my work since then has been around sort of inbound lead generation. Paid is not my place. This isn't about paid. I've seen so much money wasted on paid. And so I was on Twitter, called X now, and I've gotten jobs there. And I even met my mentor, Bill Miller. He's an author, but we have joined households. So we've been together for 10 or 11 years. We've had lots of experience around the business side, operations, around leadership, and he has his own coaching consulting with CEOs. So LinkedIn has really matured and come to life. And that's where I've been networking this last year. And all of my leads for my fractional have come from my comments, literally. I have one in the pipeline right now that came from a person I previously worked with, but that's our story. And so Bill and I, we kind of tag team, and we're here. So he has color commentary too. So, and I've worked at startups and then at the scale of Dell. So the spectrum. That image is just like the vortex that's trying to suck you in when you lose your job. And, you know, I love being an employee. I think we all love our job. I'm in marketing. It's the thing. So when your job disappears, you're kind of lost. It's like, what to do? I've reinvented myself. I'm on my 4th career. So very different, from law enforcement to teaching to library and now digital marketing. So last November of 2022, over a year ago, I was working for a startup, and his whole business model was to get more funding, and he couldn't get it. So the people who stayed dropped 80% of their salary. So they're only getting 20% of their salary. So that was not really a good option. So I moved on. I looked for a job. I found a job. I was hired in February. The first week, train wreck. I found out that they had lied about their revenue, 3 million, because I thought, great, we have revenue. He says, will you take on sales too? I was coming in to do marketing. Okay, worked 7 days a week for 2 months. And then he had a friend who got laid off. So he's like, well, I'm going in a different direction. And I was just like, really, I took a month off and I was just like, enough. Like, this is crazy. And so as I went out to look for a new job in like LinkedIn, and I was applying a few times, but the reality was is that I was talking to founders and they're like, well, we'd love to work with you, but they couldn't afford a full-time equivalent. So I said, well, I'll work with you on a part-time, like 10 hours a week, a quarter time. And it's worked out great. And I'm not a salesperson, so I think that's one of the things I don't really address in here. But that first client, Memorial Day weekend, I commented, he saw it, he reached out to me. I closed them in the first half hour. I started Monday. Like, it was great. But the rest have taken 3 months to say, yes, I want this, go find budget, and come back. So 2 to 3 months. It's a cycle. But essentially commenting on LinkedIn, I committed to building my own sort of business. That's like, I've had this dream, but I always just said, well, there's unemployment and I'll get a job. And I did that. And then when I had a job, I really just did the job. I didn't invest in myself. So this time is different. And I have 3 clients this year now. I potentially am getting a 4th. I'll tell you more about that. Anyway, it's all about reinvention. And it is a mindset, because long ago people said, Connie, you should have a consulting firm or you should have an agency. I'm like, no. But it's working, but it is a mindset. So how do I get leads on LinkedIn? It's about finding, so everybody's like, oh, you have to post every day. That's a lot of content and that's overwhelming. So after I realized what happened, I realized it makes sense. So you have influencers in LinkedIn with, one of mine, he has 250,000 people and he's active. He posts the content every day. So commenting, and I have a framework for that comment. And then people come to me. So I only post my own content once a week. I don't expect it coming from there. But when these founders are out reading their favorite influencers, they see a comment or a conversation in the comments and they'll click through and connect. So then I say, hi, thanks for following me, or thanks for connecting. How can I help you? And Bill says, how can I help you? It's one of the best phrases. Powerful. So then immediately they'll say, hey, can I have a call? There's no other thing about it. These are just founders. They're just like in a hurry. And so I give them my Calendly link and they take the first, I can always tell their urgency. They'll take the first one, first appointment. We get on a call. I have a different slide about that, but it's really amazing. So these calls are so different. We have all went through that conventional path and the calls around a job application. You talk to HR, you talk to the hiring manager, and you talk to the others. And the whole goal is to disqualify down to a short list. And then there's networking calls, which, I love to network with people. I'm doing so much better with it. But I've talked to a few people, like I see them in Fractional United Slack group, and one person's from way back 2008, 2009, and she was very, very active on X, Twitter. And she's like, oh, I need clients. I spent an hour with her and her attitude was like, oh, wow, this is too much work. Okay. Really. So people who want the easy button or the magic button, good luck with that. I can't help people who can't help themselves. And then I ran into the aggressive salespeople. There's a guy in Florida, and he runs a weekly session. And I went because he got into my DMs. He invited me. I went, and he has a group of about 30 people, and they are so aggressive. I can't stand it. But this guy's like, oh, well, just let me access to your DMs and I'll go through them and I'll filter through them and I'll message them and you'll get. No, don't. I can't. Those people I won't talk to. It's a waste of my time because they have some weird, anyway. And they're all working on referrals and we'll give you 10%, blah, blah, blah. They're all fast talkers. So the last version of this, I call it comment, connect, but it's pretty basic. Find influencers, put a well-placed comment. They ask you to connect and then you meet. And then if they don't ask to meet, when I have time, I go through my DMs and I will reach out to them. Like I made some videos, like how I could help them looking at their website. So you can nurture in your DMs of people who have connected with you. And this meeting is so different. So Bill is in the background a lot of the time. I'll let him describe that.
Yeah, so I've been on the hiring side as well when I was back at corporate. You know, I'm kind of semi-retired these days, writing and consulting, but I ran marketing and product management organizations for large companies and startups. And I've been on the hiring side, and really the whole concept of Connie's first column there, which I think you all know, is not to hire you, it's to eliminate you. And the only people who get put on the 5-person screen list, 3-person short list, are the ones who have not been eliminated. So that's why sometimes you think an interview goes really well, but you said something, you didn't even know it was a negative on that call, and you're done. The networking calls, there are two in particular that I listen to. Connie loves the networking calls when they're true networking calls. But when you get these aggressive salespeople that just want access to your connections so they can build their list and their revenue, you should be able to identify that relatively quickly and just do everything you can to say, I'm really back into it, I gotta go. But these comment meetings and phone calls are different because you own and control the meeting now. You asked, which is one of my most powerful questions ever in professional business, how can I help you? It doesn't matter whether you're an employee, a contractor, fractional. It just doesn't matter. How can I help you is one of the easiest things to say. It's even easier than saying no, which is my favorite 2-letter word in the English language. But Connie is just in charge of those calls, and she starts to ask questions. Some of them are uncomfortable questions for the CEO. Typically, it's a CEO, by the way. Sometimes it's a co-founder that may not be a CEO, but it's just a different mentality on the call. And this is what Connie meant by mindset. When you choose to become a fractional and you want to sell your services, you control this call. You control the information flow. You control the questions. They never have asked Connie for a resume. They just go by the LinkedIn background and the comment that she's made. Sometimes they don't even check her profile. They just set up the call.
They just want help. So they'll tell me their revenue, they'll tell me their issues, they'll tell me what they've tried before. And it's so easy. Like, it's so nice. It's such a breath of fresh air. So these meetings are just totally different. There's no stress, and they really just want to know if you can help them. And then how much is it going to cost? Which I'll talk about that in a minute here too. So I put together that worksheet, and you can be using that now here as we talk about this, but the thing about, it's social proof, right? Like, they don't ask for my resume. They just looked at LinkedIn and they are going off of that comment, which is sort of a case study. It's sort of a statement about what you've done and the results. The STAR method, essentially was the situation, the actions you took, the results. And it's nice to have a time frame. Most of us are senior, so we have that on our resume, but take it off your resume and just kind of, you know, make these short case studies. So at the end of the worksheet, I put my LinkedIn, I put my slides there. You can look at those. Like the second slide is literally, here's my results, right? And the next thing is the back office stuff. So I just bought my own health insurance, took that off the table, went to Marketplace. It's expensive, but hey, it's a peace of mind, right? I was on Cobra for a while. Don't want to go into that, but Cobra has its challenges. Anyway, it was a headache. So this is 1099 work. So you fill out that form and you provide it to them and they pay you. And the biggest thing for them is that it's such a huge cost savings. You know, I work 10-hour block and they can get like, seriously, in 15 hours last summer, I was doing equivalent of a full-time delivery just because you're focused. You're not in all these other meetings. You're not getting all these side asks. And they're getting a great deal. So it's cost savings for them. And it's a trial. So the contract piece, talk about that after a little bit here, but and then a plan to find your clients, you know, your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a great place. Networking, I have not gotten anything out of like Fractional United Slack group or Pavilion. Just I get a little frustrated Pavilion because they say the same name of a person with an agency and that person swoops in and there's no more conversation. But I've just been doing it on my own. So you're asking yourself, like, what do I sell? And trust me, this has been a journey. So how do you differentiate between contracting and fractional services? So this is a great question. Like there's advisory, and I saw a really good, it was in a Pavilion newsletter, advisory, consulting, and fractional. So advisory is like, you tell them what to do, they should go do it. Consulting, you'll get together and you'll, you know, put together a strategy. You may help with implementation. So fractional evolved for me around bringing the strategy and doing it. And that was my pitch for working at early stage startups anyway. And to be honest, these people don't know what the word fractional means. So part-time, like work on a contract basis, makes more sense to them. It's just the word, it's just words, using words. So I don't know if that helps, but fractional doesn't mean anything to people. It's not well known enough yet.
All right. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Contract is yeah. And does anybody else have other questions? Let's stop here for a minute before we dig in. Yeah, they know contract, they know 1099. And you're working part-time, you can deliver almost full-time equivalent. And that really means something to them. A lot of the times too, they have marketing. Okay, so 2 of my companies are from India. Don't judge me, but they need help. They need help. And I love my India teams, okay? But the other one is in Canada. And you know, they don't have a marketing person, or they have really junior marketing people. And so you get to be the leader. You get to, so one of my clients, he calls me Friday, he's like, Connie, I'm going to go for surgery for 2 weeks. Can you take my team? Sure. I'm meeting at 11:30 every night. Like, it's okay. It's fine. But that's essentially, it's fun. It's part of it. So does anybody else have any other questions? You can unmute yourself too and ask. I only have like 8 slides, so.
Yeah, so I can help a little bit here too, because I have 2 clients that I handle right now, and one is a startup founder that is a CEO. His company is a few years old, but I'm just an advisor and a mentor for this gentleman. Connie listens to these calls most of the time when she's not on another call. And the thing is that he just needs to talk to somebody outside of his organization and outside of the investor community. And I give him clear, suggestions and clarities and advice and mentor him. And he's what, 25, 30 years younger than me, but still, he just loves that. That's an advisory role. And I make a lot of money in the advisory role. And the second CEO, I've done contract work to differentiate what I've done for him is contract work. And a couple of times I've been on a retainer with him, and then depends on his financial situation, his company. He's also a startup. But the contract work, I do that. I do contract work. I write contracts for him. I edit contracts. I save him a lot of legal money because I've worked with so many lawyers over my professional career. I get it ready for the lawyer, and then it's a shorter cost for him. But the doing part, the execution part, comes contract, where fractional, a lot of people want to be fractional CMOs, fractional CROs, fractional VPs. Um, in the smaller startup community, as Connie's learned, she's been a head of marketing at multiple companies. You have to do the work. And so that's part of the contracting situation and even the fractional services. But Connie loves to do the strategy and then the execution. So she does provide advice to the CEOs on these calls. But in my role, I have the advisory role, which is really more money per hour than the contract role. So everybody wants that, but it's harder for me to get that. And I got that client through my book because I have a lead magnet in my book, The Ricky CEO. So people send me emails for 7 tips that I put in there, but they also send me an email, do you do consulting? So it's kind of interesting that, if you ever want to write a book, we can help you with that. But if you have the expertise, you can do that. I've tried to convince Connie to do it. She's not interested yet. So hopefully that helps with the contracting versus fractional. And they are different hourly rates. You don't have to have one hourly rate. You can have a published price list, but
I
then
think,
give discounts off of that.
yeah.
But, so it's,
So I think the contract versus contracting, consulting, and fractional, I would lean towards the contract. I work on contracts, whatever. But the whole piece about the CMO versus or the CXO, whatever, and they put a little F in front. So I'm working at startups that don't have that level for CMO yet. But anyway, I've kind of sort of just kept it to a fractional marketer. So Marissa's going. Okay. So I think that so there is some language around what you call yourselves. The other thing they want to say, they ask is, how are we going to work together? How do you work with us? Like, that's a big question. And I have another slide on that. Really, for me, it's just as if I were an employee, because that collaboration for marketing is important for, it is. So let's step back for a minute. And the hardest thing is to define what you're going to offer. And man, this was a journey for me. And I've made like offer sheets, or the first PDF's really ugly. I didn't share that. But what do you do? What can you do? It is, it's just challenging. And so what happened to me is, so the commenting, getting leads is great, but it was about cold email. So we've been doing cold outbound email campaigns, and it's a struggle. And I'm now shifting their attention, like, let's do some webinars, let's do some LinkedIn outreach. So be careful what you wish for, is maybe the answer there. But seriously, what are you good at? What do you like to do? And obviously, what do you have case studies around, so from your resume. So on the worksheet I have there that, what's repeatable? And what's happened to me in every case is that, so a campaign or a certain channel expands into other areas, because rarely do they have like a good place on their website, or you start seeing other needs. And I mean, personally, I enjoy doing more. And I mean, so you could call that scope creep, but it's not, because it needs to be locked down. Um, and I do think that, you know, you can start showing. So my goal with this, to be honest, was that I would work with someone on a part-time basis, and then maybe we'd agree to an adoption or a relationship. Sometimes I call this like dating, like, you know, you get divorced, right? Like when a job isn't going great, we need to get a divorce. Well, this time it's like, maybe we should get together, you know, and go into a full-time job. That hasn't happened yet. Um, but the reality is that, you know, what pain points can you solve? And if you can get that in front of them, you can do it cheaper and better than hiring a full-time employee they can't afford. So the titles in the industry, these are all marketing audience questions. Like, the other question is, do they have a budget? This isn't that big of a thing, because you are like, I try in my call to say, well, if you're going to hire me full-time, it would cost this. But if you do it this way, you know, it's a fraction of that. So, like I said, one person I converted on the call, but the rest have went away for 2 or 3 months and came back with that budget. So budget's not a big issue. What services you're going to deliver, the question on how you work with them, I have another slide on that. Pricing, you've got 1x, 2x, 3x your salary. That's how I explain it. How much you can get done for them. The rules of engagement's really important. So no one makes you crazy. The terms on the contract. So I have a 7-day termination on either side. So if someone offers me a job, I can just say, okay, or I need to go with one client more, 7 days, both sides. Everybody's agreeable to that. In fact, that makes them feel like, oh, I'm not stuck with this person, this expensive person. So is there a question? She gave a link.
Say that again, Connie. What do you mean by that? 7 days.
Oh, simply in the contract, to terminate that contract. So it goes, so it's a rolling contract, month to month to month to month, right? So it automatically renews unless someone terminates it. So if it's the 1st of February, you want to end your contract with me as the employer, you just let me know that on the 8th, in 1 week, we're finishing this. Good. If I need to get out of it, I say, hey, I'm giving you a week's notice. Bye. It's like a short half the 2 weeks notice.
So, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we've never had an issue. Like, my people, we get along great. Like, I've never, but it's just there for, so it's an issue if you're applying for jobs and they say, well, how long time do you need? And I just say, no, I've got a 7-day termination. So I'm actually available sooner than someone in a job, sitting in a job. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Let me explain rules of engagement as well, because everybody may not know what we mean by that. So rules of engagement are when you do sign a contract and you do accept a fractional role with somebody, they still, especially if it's a CEO or some other CXO, they might not want to change what they already have in place. And they just want somebody to be a slave for them, more or less. If you're happy with that on a contract basis, that's fine for the money. But if you want to be truly successful, sometimes you need them, they need to give you access to the tools that you need, like the marketing or sales automation, whatever systems that they're using. And, you know, the website, the web developers, whoever it is that your deliverables and results are tied to. Because if they don't do that and they put other people in between you and them, and they don't do what you suggest and ask, you're the expert they're hiring, then you have a better chance to fail than be successful. And we've seen that now.
This is the part that's tripped me up, and I need to get tighter on this.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll talk about that here in a bit.
Okay.
So the ways to find clients, people are wondering about, how do I find clients? And so like I said, I found mine by commenting on LinkedIn, and then later I'll prospect through my DMs and reach out to people. I saw somebody post that they're on a job posting in LinkedIn. It says recruiter, but it's usually the company HR person. So they've been sending them a DM saying, hey, I could do this for you on a fractional basis, save you money. And that's how they've been getting theirs. So when you filter on LinkedIn, you can also find part-time jobs. So I haven't played with this. I was also wondering about more junior marketing jobs, if you could come in and, get it done with more experience, right, than a junior person. So the bottom line for companies is that it's a cost-effective option, and you can get more done with less. Like, because you're experienced, you can come in and get it done. Sharing your offer with your offer page with your network. I didn't do that because I didn't have mine right away. I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to get that offer, whatever, slides, page, PDF done, and share it, because just getting the word out that's written down, people want to see it written down. That gives them confidence that you're going to deliver that on that. There's some other ways like cold outreach, and DMing, connecting and DMing on LinkedIn. I call it outbound in LinkedIn. I'm kind of interested in trying this. I haven't gotten there yet, but anyway, that's how you find them. It's really about resonating with somebody, and then they want it. Once they want it, so we went over like how to find people and what you're going to offer. Then it's like how to manage this. I don't like being bored, so I have 3 clients, but really the third one, so I'm offering blocks of time. So the whole thing around a project, the challenge with a project is if they keep rejecting and saying, no, I don't like this, do some more, you can really end up with a lot of time. I'm not an agency expert, never worked at an agency. I always feared being the agency type person because I know I spend more time than, I would estimate. It's always how it goes. But I've been selling blocks of time. It works really well. The first one was 15 hours. I was with him for 5 months. And I have 2 right now at 10 hours per week, which the third one, I was hoping it would grow into more, but now I'm hoping not, because it's 10 hours for the month of helping with cold email. But I said, we really should, it's healthcare tech. And I said, we should talk to sales to get the exact messaging, because it's like a partner level. It's high tech. And my marketing contact says, no, we don't talk to sales. We just bring them leads. Okay, that's not going to work, right? So you have to figure out those relationships. And so let me just say this. When you're explaining how you charge, I used to have a piece of paper, but you really have to take your salary and put it in terms of hours and then blocks of hours, because that's what they want to hear about. And and then if you're going to do 1x, 2x, or 3x, what that hourly rate is, they'll resonate with that and the block of hours. And the other thing is that they will always come, not always, but my India friends will come back and cut it down. So just keep that in mind, that they may come back and try to negotiate down. So you want to raise it a little bit. And it's not awkward. It's just the way it is. And I'm not a great salesperson. I'm learning, but I've gotten over that. And that's something that I think role playing might help with. Just that, talking through that piece. And then I had a cheat card on my rates. So this looks like I'm only working like a little over half time, which is truth. I committed to myself over this last year that I wanted to build potentially my own business, community, my whole, and I haven't bought a lot of classes. In fact, this was the first one for 1,500. And it's so frustrating to me that it's not what I want and crave. So I'm just going to build my own. So that's what I'm working on with Growth Marketing Zone. And it came about last summer because I have ran into founders who really want to work with me, but they don't have the money yet for even part-time. So I'm like, fine, I'll do done for you and do it yourself. And so that's where that's at. But the advantage is I can provide coaching anyway. And for my 10 hours per week, I usually tell my clients I'll probably work more because I do sometimes, but sometimes there's down weeks. So it balances out. I like to work as an employee, right? So I want to meet weekly. And since Christmas, my weekly meetings have fallen off. You have to have communication. I like to be connected into a Slack, collaborate on Docs or SharePoint. I've got a client on Teams. Ugh. But literally, and then when you get on SharePoint, you need an email address, company email address. That one isn't so important, but it's really important to be plugged in. If you end up on the outside, like I had a conversation with the client and over Christmas break, and he's like, well, you haven't delivered. I'm like, excuse me, but you said you had lots of resources. And so we talked about it and figured out ways to connect more in. And right now I'm babysitting his team for 2 weeks, which is great. Like I can provide that leadership. I need to get to know the people working with me. And that's just me. Company, email address, I have that. Okay. So my reality is when I was an employee, I would work 10 hours per day and weekends. I was a workaholic. I know it. I've got more balance now and I like this, but that's how it is. Questions on any of this? I feel like it's a big dump. Like, it's not bad though. It's and so let me just say this. When you look at that, 3 clients, 3 brands, they're kind of in the same realm. One is health IT services, one is same like QA services, and then the other one is staff augmentation. The only way I could have done this was with AI. Let's be clear. Before this, there is no way it would have. I do research. I feel really responsible for messaging, but the only way that this was workable, and it was transformative for me when I say that about AI. It's the only way, honestly. And I'll just say, and I could probably handle 4. I'm hoping this next pipeline one comes in at maybe half time. And then I will probably get rid of client number 3 and I'll be good there and I'll continue building my business. So does that help you kind of give an idea of how this works or what I'm doing? I'm not saying it's right.
Connie, what type of work do you do for those clients? What is your scope of work?
So it generally starts as a campaign, like outbound email with a certain audience, email campaign. And so then it grows, like add on, like let's fix the website. We need a landing page. And so that's what I've been doing with one. The client number 3, that's literally crafting the emails. That's why it's so short amount of time. And then the other one now has morphed in. So I want these to grow. I'll be clear on that. Scope creep is okay. So the other one has grown into, well, that was the other thing we had to chat about. So it's one line of business around QA services and promoting that. And they also have a SaaS offering for testing. And they're launching a new product for carbon accounting software. And so at Christmas break, he's like, Connie, can you just take all this over? How much would that cost? So I gave him a price. He cut it by a quarter. I said, no, you got to have a boundary, right? Because otherwise I would have been working theoretically billing half time for 3 business lines. No, like, and so I said, essentially, and it's been the best thing for him as the founder CEO. He needs to go and solve for this. He wants staff replaced. He wants all this decision. So he's having a daily meeting with his marketing people. So that was tough love. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, Connie also provides input on those people because he asked her specifically, well, what do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? And Connie kind of defines what is needed from that team, and then they go and do it, whether it's the landing page, graphic
But they're very
design.
junior. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
that's
they're very
kind of what she
different
does.
engagements.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you commit to a certain number of hours. You don't go by scope of work.
So not really. Like it's not like, okay, I'll do this email campaign and then so like with the email campaign, helping them get set up with tooling for cold email, helping them warm up a domain, giving them all the advice for that.
So Sabrina, when you do a statement of work type of engagement, um, I've done some of those before. Your contract is a little bit different than the one Connie is currently using, which is for blocks of hours, and then it just keeps going. In one case, I think she has a 6-month agreement with one, but the statement of work, you have to have an element um, that's very loose inside that statement of work. You'll do all these things for, let's say, a fixed price, but you have executives, CXOs of any, whoever they are, that just keep saying, nope, not good enough, nope, not good enough. And they send you back to do more and more and more and more. And when you're an employee, it doesn't matter. But when you're a statement of work contractor, it does matter because it's your time that gets into that. And then your cost per hour or your fee for hour is lowered, much lowered. So that's the challenge with the statement of work contract project. I don't, do it if it works for you, but I know a lot of people who do that, but I'm not a big fan of it. And Connie's not a big fan of it because we've worked with so many CXOs that just continue, they don't accept it. They're perfectionist or we could
And
call them other names.
these companies that I love to work with are 0 to 10 employees. They're tiny. And I love that, right? I want to help them solve problems. Not saying it's for everyone. So anyway, I don't know if we can talk about it later. So this is what Bill was talking about. Things can go sideways. And so what I'm saying is 2 things. One, start out with what you're going to do, but then, is there scope creep or those kinds of things? And I've been managing it, but the worst thing for me is getting blocked out or not having access to sales or, just because sales is so critical. Like I work with sales and not having insight. So let's just say you can start and write an email campaign and plan it and hand it over. What our target audience was pulled, what are the results? And I just need to have visibility. I can't operate and you can't tell me that my part is wrong and it's not delivering results if I can't see the rest of the workflows. So the biggest and the other thing is that everybody thinks they're a marketing expert. So my one client, we have the 2 founders helping write emails. It's lovely, not. And so yesterday I was coaching my connection at the company. She does customer success and other things, but I was coaching her on how to go back to them and say, what if we tried this? Like, because I understand. But the one thing that's been really important for me is that when I was an employee, I was a bit quieter. I wasn't like, it's like, yeah, we can try this, but it's not a good idea. And then they're like, well, yeah, go do that. So it's going to fail. And you go and it's painful because 3 months later it fails. So I have been much more outspoken this past year, and I love it. It's better. So I found my voice. I try to speak up, and they want that because they view you as a business partner that's part-time, but they still view you as an equal, which is beautiful. So I think, and then the process for deliverables, like I track every week what I'm doing, and I just keep a running Google Doc. I just like push it down to like a receipt. And if ever in 2 months, whatever, they come back and say, hey, no, look, I pull the dates, make a list. That's how we had our conversation in December. It's like, it's all here. You can go look at the doc if you'd like. So just that documenting is really important and helpful. And then timely responses. So every company has their own culture around how fast they move. And I move really fast. I'm like, let's get stuff done. And I have an urgency. And so when you go into a culture that's like really slow.
So
Anyway.
Connie, Pete has a question.
He has a question.
He has his hand up.
Okay. Yes.
So couple things. So were you able to get this going without that website? I mean, or did you build that? Like, was this working before then, and then you built that?
Which
Your website? The growth, the one that you sent.
So there's a community, which is the Learn.Growth Marketing. That's a community. And then I have a website called growthmarketing.zone that I've never really used because, so that's another thing about getting started that's can go sideways. You spend so much time working on your own collateral that you never get it. It's a problem when you're a marketer. It's just one of those things, but.
So you didn't spend. Go ahead. Sorry.
This other that I've been doing has been completely independent of. So what I did with the community is I brought in the founders that didn't have money to pay me. So the done for you, when I talk to them, they get that LinkedIn, like that equivalent of that LinkedIn slides. And then the do-it-yourself people are for people who don't have the money to pay for my services. But it was independent totally. You don't need that. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So if I heard you right, you don't need a full website. You just need some case studies.
You don't need a website at all.
Right. Okay.
So, in fact, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the case studies that you have, where do you talk about that? Are those what's pinned on your profile?
So this is my thingy here. Let me get out of this for a second.
This is great, by the way. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. For you, Pete, I think so Pete and I met through something else, but a different product market fit group. And notice I didn't use product market fit in here anywhere, but you need to get product market fit. And for the non-marketing people, that just means like you have to, what people want, that's what you need to deliver. Because if what you think you want to sell, you can't sell unless people want it. Let me go up here to. So I've been running around looking at the creators, you call them creators, and a lot of people are selling off of Google Docs. Seriously, I could share some examples, but you don't need a website. You just need some slides or a PDF, to be honest. So, so this is my, these are the newest version. God, I've made like 5 or 6 of these, to be honest, and what you can do, I'll give you a hint. Go down here to this little box at the bottom, the little square on the bottom right, click on it to enlarge it, and then you can download it. You can do that on any carousel on the web, on LinkedIn. So these are mine, and my results here, those are straight off of my resume. Straight.
How did you make what is on that? Like, is that just a power Google Slides?
Yeah, these are Google Slides that I downloaded and then I attached as a link.
That's just a link to the LinkedIn.
Yeah, I attached it as media. So there's another tool that I was sort of using, but just, God, I'm a tool junkie. It's fine. So this is what I offer. It seems like a lot, but I would really like to change my scope from starting out with email campaign to a broader, like I can come in and help you with a few things, right? LinkedIn, I can help you build brand. I can set up your demand engine. That's what I'd really like to sell. How I work with you, I already went over this, but that's essentially. And this is what people want to know. They're already sold on you because of your case study, but they just want to know, how do I work with you? That's it. Like, that's their question. And how much is it going to cost? But that's a lesser thing. And so I added this slide here. This is kind of my like resume, who I am, what I've done kind of stuff, and my certifications. But this is added as media. And like I said, at the bottom right, you can click and download it. So the most important thing, Pete, to answer your question is your profile. And this is something that I think next week I might do this type of a workshop on how to do this in Canva, because it's fun and it's easy, and this has been an evolution too. Bill would tell you, oh God, she's changed her banner like how many times. I had, but the banner, the colors were added down here, helping B2B founders get more leads. That 45 characters goes with you when you comment. It's seen. And seriously, I've had somebody book an appointment. This is if you have Sales Navigator, pay for it, without ever looking at my profile. That's a bit frightening, but it's cool. So this is critical. And to be honest, I don't think people really read your about section. So, I mean, it's important, but these featured items here, people schedule a call off of your LinkedIn, like just shows up on my calendar. It's like, okay, let's talk. And I'll research them. And you can see here, see this as a document. It's just added as a document. You can add a PDF, you can, whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sorry, go ahead. One last one. You said AI, you wouldn't be able to do this without AI. Is that just because of the content, or tell me how you did that? What do you mean?
Yeah. So I was a librarian for 10 years, and search is a thing for me. Like, I would search and pull out links and sift through all that content. AI just aggregates all that content. And now it's to the point where you can say, hey, go find me all the competitors and give me the URLs. Go give me all the taglines for the competitors. Like, it is so fast. And messaging, like writing, I'm not a copywriter, but I'll start out writing. It's so hard. But if I can get ChatGPT to start writing for me across any of my 3 brands, then I can edit it. And it's been seriously saves 75% of my time. Like, that's the key that, and so I'm looking for my slides here. So when I say that I save 75% of my time, like, seriously, I would have went crazy before. I couldn't have delivered at the level I wanted to. So anyway, I've set up courses on the commenting, the framework, I create content in my LinkedIn to link back to, because that's where they come and they read it more like they get enough information from a comment. And so on Labor Day, I said to Bill, I said, when I make this comment, it's going to drive leads. And boy, it was the most of any. So I know like when it's going to resonate. But anyway, so I'm trying to set this stuff up at a reasonable price. So what I say to startup founders is I will deliver effective, efficient lead generation with right price tools, but I'm carrying that over here. So that is my goal. And I don't think you should have to pay $9.99. Even 2,600 at Pavilion's a lot. So that's where I'm at. So anyway, other questions, thoughts?
Connie, I have a question for you. So everything that I've been hearing, which is amazing, thank you for sharing. It's talking about the lead gen component, and you mentioned you're not a salesperson. I am. And what I've noticed in my time in the SaaS space is that a lot of these startup companies don't have really tools in place for their reps to work faster and smarter.
Yeah.
The last 3 companies that I've sold for, I've actually created that documentation, whether it be like an executive summary, if you will, a pricing proposal, or some type of key account internal document that you just build in PowerPoint. Do you ever do anything like that? Because that's what I'm trying to understand, like how I could potentially offer a service like that. I don't have any experience doing your side of it, though, just
Yeah.
the tactical boots on the ground frontline stuff.
That's why I didn't use PMF for product market fit, because I realized not everybody's going to be in marketing sphere. Yeah, so a part of mine is the tools, right? So whether it's setting up HubSpot, CRM, the cloud, the cold email, outbound email, or whatever, the tooling comes with, because that's like what I do too. It also comes from the data, right? You can't get data if you aren't using the tools correctly and don't have things set up. So you absolutely can, identify what's the pain point. Like you said, these companies don't have the right tools or modern tools, and they're not using them properly. I mean, so I've been following a lot of the people doing outbound SDR type sales, that kind of work. And, there's companies using SalesLoft and Outbound that are blowing out their domains, like blowing up their email. So absolutely, what you need to do is define essentially, if you're going to create a tech stack, what's the outcome? What are the business benefits, business value? And then start commenting on some of those people who have huge audiences, and people will talk to you because they'll want to know what it is and the how, but you can sell that service.
Okay. Great.
That's, yeah.
So Leanne, one of the things when you comment, you might talk about workflows that you've created. I've created workflows for multiple companies that save 75% of your time, or, whatever it is. And that's your case study. So you build that out so that you have answers to questions, but it may drive, there's tons of stuff out there about SDRs, AEs, and
Or
people.
maybe your team isn't effective.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
from my experience, selling from like brands like Amex down to like small startups, it just creates buyer confusion in the market when everybody's calling everything something else, and they're creating their own PowerPoints and they're creating their own executive summaries. And to me, it's just extremely organic to put a process in place. I'm just a systematic person, which I think is rare maybe for salespeople. So I've just been able to implement those and effectively help. I don't have the metrics around how much time. I mean, I could probably
You can estimate it.
Yeah.
Start with the pain points. What are the pain points of your target audience? What are they struggling with? And they might not even realize there's a solution.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Other questions? I see we're 3 minutes in. And I want to be conscious of people's time, but
I was just commenting in the chat, Connie. I mean, you were mentioning some of those outbound sales channels. Those are about to change massively. And if you're blowing people up like that, you are guaranteeing your outbound is going to end up in spam filters. So I think that for those with like a good understanding of ICP and really good at like targeting campaigns, it's going to be an excellent time to make that pitch to different companies, because you know, that ability to do proactive outreach and get people reaching out back out to you is going to be really the only way, because those old channels are gone in what is it, 3 weeks, is it 4 weeks, I can't recall.
I thought it was already in place.
It might be. I lost track because I'm not in marketing. I'm in tech consulting, but I've been just sort of watching. I've been reviewing different systems because I work with marketers, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. It's done. So let's
Yeah.
like start talking about a more holistic way to target your market.
And
I think
there's
one of the biggest changes is they're going to require like an unsubscribe button feature at the top of the email versus at the bottom. And so also, in addition to like getting your getting whitelist or whatever, being blocked, people are just going to opt out of receiving anything from you.
Yeah. No, and in a lot of ways, I think it's a more positive way. I think it's going to result in a lot more intentional work around like market and targeting. And I think it's really positive. It really does emphasize this pitch of, do you want a tailored program? Can we figure out and target your ideal customer profile and your ideal market, and figure out alternative ways to reach them? Because even if that spam rule wasn't coming into effect, I feel like generic outbound, I mean, for my day job, I come in the morning and I have things set up to filter, and I'm having to clear out maybe 30 things I automatically delete every day. So like generic outbound isn't working that great now. This is just hastening what is ultimately the trend, right? Which is when people reach out to me on more holistic campaigns, I tend to respond. Even if I don't bite, I'll give them 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, and around the sales and communication side, there's some massive trends around questions around, are SDRs working? Is that working? And so I would check into that and see, just look around and see what, there's some trends on LinkedIn where people are talking about, should we replace the SDR role entirely? Do we need it? Whatever. But the problem really is that they're not educated, they're not trained, they're not given the document, the, like what you're talking about, the process or the documents to use. And it's
But
not.
that could be a really effective part of that pitch, which is it's not just the campaign, but it's also that sales enablement strategy. It's not, let's get rid of your SDRs. It's, how do we build a program to build skills up to make them more effective, right?
And provide them with the assets they need.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so many companies, I'm passionate about this one. So many companies are hiring sales and CROs and like, oh, we don't need that marketing thing. And so their people are not getting the assets or the content or the messaging that they need. They're allowed to go make it up. Anyway, so there's a whole piece there around seriously. And then what?
It's scary.
Yeah.
But there's also opportunity, Leon, because of that situation between Jason and Connie that just discussed. It's a huge opportunity for you if you can figure out how to package that as your offer, and then find the right people.
So
Connie does this, but she's got courses for this.
Yeah, I mean, so let me go back to this $1,500 course I took that doesn't give me what I crave. No help with offers, no help with pricing or suggestions around that. The guy's a salesman, he's good at selling. Nice, okay. I'm not dissing that. It's just that I just paid you a lot of money. So the reality is I told Bill earlier too, is I want to help people with offers. We want to, like, and the whole pricing conversation, it's really a personal thing, but and it's really what the market will bear and what you can sell in, right? So I'm not good with that, let's just say, as well, but I'm getting better. So the reality is that the offer is the hardest thing. And if you can nail that and have connected into those pain points, I tell you, the rest is like, you're at the top of the hill, then it's rolling down. It's a lot
Right.
easier.
The offer is hard for the fractionals for us, but the ICP is more difficult for the CEOs and the companies. They don't want to lose out on a deal, so they'll take anything, even if it's not the ICP, because they need to generate revenue. The problem is it screws them completely up, and then you can't run those focus campaigns, Jason, that you're talking about.
Right.
That's the problem. Is when you
I
ask
saw,
for the
there was an anonymous survey done of a number of like startup CEOs. And the question was, would you be able to forego hitting target for a single quarter in the interest of refiguring your focus towards more stability long term? 90, I think the number was 98% said no, they can't do it. But like is it Leanne?
Yes.
Your question, I found that a lot of folks in this market, right, would be willing to give, like if you got your pitch and you want to give it to peers, like whether you're part of Pavilion or Fractionals United, I feel like people would absolutely give you 15 minutes to hear your pitch, bounce it off them and give you some feedback, if only because I'm doing that for a lot of my peers because it's been effective for me to hear theirs and give my feedback. And then it also, in hearing theirs, I'm usually like, that was a lot better than mine in a lot of ways. And I'm getting ideas from others as to where my weak spots are too. So, and I think like Connie is part of a group of people, like a lot of people are sharing resources because building this up as a methodology, I think it's still kind of new, right? Fractional is a thing I rarely heard before 2 years ago, sorry. And I think it's really good to sort of like build a culture around it, right? And a network of people that sort of support and can make recommendations. So
yeah, fractional wasn't used. It was more like interim. So
right.
in the when I first started doing this consulting stuff, it was interim COO or interim VP of something, whatever, and that was used. It wasn't even part-time. It was just interim. So
Yeah.
Contract is better, part-time contract. People understand that. Yeah. So
all
did
right, so
that help,
Connie, you
Marina?
want to move along and wrap? So it is late.
Well, yeah, no, we are. We're at 11 after. This always happens. It's okay. It shouldn't happen. Any other questions that anybody has? This learn.growthmarketing.zone is a place where you can come and ask questions. There's a free section. But literally I'm going to try to have weekly sessions, but there's a chat here. Ask questions. I love this pig. Anyway, but ask questions, talk to us. You can introduce yourself here. Up on the top right, you can log in for free. It's here. Chat. Bill and I are here. And anyway, I see my list of people are over here. It's not so great. Anyway, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. I want to help people and share my story and just try to that first slide I had where it's this vortex of just despair. Shouldn't be. Let's put yourself back to work. There's so many people that want and need the help that you can put yourself back to work, get a few clients and go.